Do you want to stay at a hotel together? That day, I reunited with my first love after a long time. However, she was in such a bad state that she looked ragged and smelled awful. I couldn't leave her like that, so I invited her to a hotel, got her a bath, and treated her to a meal. How did she end up in this condition? When I asked her, it turned out she had been through unimaginably tough experiences. A little while later, for some reason, the CEO of a major client showed up at my place. I want to scout you. What? My name is Tom Smith, 23 years old. This year marks my 5th year in the workforce. That said, I'm currently actively looking for a new job. I'm not technically unemployed, but I'm looking for my next position because I plan to leave my current company. Being 23 and in my 5th year means I started working right after graduating high school. The reason for that is, my family was actually quite poor. Because of that, I couldn't go to college. After graduating high school, I was grateful for the job that took me in and worked desperately every day for the past 5 years. I took care of my health, never got sick, and worked without being late or absent. Even though my salary was slightly lower because I only had a high school diploma, I was thankful to have a job that suited me. One day, my boss, John, called me. I wondered what it could be and went to see him. And to my surprise, it was about my promotion. All my colleagues from the same year, except for me, were college graduates. I could understand if it was one of them, but I never dreamed that I, a high school graduate, would be considered for a promotion. However, it seems the promotion isn't immediate. You have a project you're working on right now, Tom. Show some results there. John told me that the condition for my promotion is to successfully complete the project I am currently handling. As soon as I heard the condition, I felt a tightening sensation in my chest. That's because the project is extremely difficult. It seems there are no easy deals after all. The project I'm working on involves a joint development with a company from the Samsung Group. Since I was entrusted with it, I must ensure its success as my job. However, just recently, there was a problem with this project. Even though it's a joint development, our workplaces are far apart, so we have regular weekly meetings. During these meetings, we check each other's progress. But during the 7th meeting, it was revealed that there was a mistake in the content. As a result, there was a discrepancy in our progress, and we fell out of sync. I am the person in charge of this project, with a colleague assisting me. My colleague was responsible for scheduling and tracking the progress of the other party. It seems my colleague incorrectly recorded the progress of the other party. I couldn't attend last week's meeting because I was busy with another matter, so my colleague must have incorrectly recorded the report from the other party at that time. This happened about 2 months after the project started. The damage is still minor, but because of this incident, the trust from the other company and their view of me as the person in charge have clearly changed. Moreover, the other company is part of the Samsung Group. Being a large conglomerate, they expect near-perfect quality in their work. Even a basic mistake like this is totally unacceptable. Additionally, based on the outcome of this project, we were promised the next project as well. Because of that, I wanted to complete this project to the satisfaction of the other party. But this mistake has thrown a wrench in that plan. Given that we are already a small company, it will be difficult to get the next project. But the worst part is the attitude of the person who made the mistake. Maybe it's his pride as a college graduate, but he shows no sign of apologizing to me, a high school graduate. There are rumors that he got the job through connections because he is related to an executive. However, that doesn't matter to me. I thought we would encourage each other as colleagues who joined a company at the same time, but he didn't feel the same way. He often ridicules me for being a high school graduate and makes sarcastic comments to assert his academic superiority. But still, as colleagues in the same workplace, we have to work together. I immediately went to apologize to the other party as the person in charge and reported the situation to John while also covering for my colleague. That's why I expected at least a simple sorry from him. You're the one in charge, so it's your fault. You couldn't even attend the meeting, and yet you keep relying on others. This is exactly why I didn't want to work with someone with lower educational background. I was disappointed when he brazenly turned it around, saying it was my lack of oversight as the person in charge. To think he would bring such pride into the workplace, it's unacceptable, even beyond education, as a human being. As a result of kindly covering for him, somehow the entire company started blaming me for the mistake. It seems my colleague felt humiliated and had his pride hurt by being covered by a high school graduate like me. Moreover, rumors spread that I tried to blame it on him, and by the time I noticed, everyone in the office was whispering about it. People around me didn't particularly care that I was a high school graduate. However, when I calmly thought back on it, I realized it wasn't just my colleague who had this educational bias. While not as blatant as my colleague, some coworkers would dump menial tasks on me or oppose giving me any responsible work just because I was a high school graduate. Tom, can you make copies of these meeting documents? Oh, but I'm scheduled to visit a client right now. It should be fine to do it for a bit. Your job doesn't involve that much responsibility anyway, so this takes priority. Apparently, this company originally had a tradition of emphasizing educational background, and some remnants of that still remain. Because of this bad tradition, employees who had absorbed it didn't want to work under someone with less education than themselves. It's no wonder that the hostility towards a high school graduate like me was strong in such a company. This only strengthened the current rumors. Naturally, any future prospects were wiped clean. These days, judging people based solely on their academic background is outdated. I'm quitting this company. I've been thinking that way and have been looking for a new job recently, but it's annoying to leave the company without resolving the projects I'm struggling with right now. While I'm fed up with my serious personality, I pretend not to notice the snide remarks from those around me and keep working. At home, I act cheerful so my parents won't worry, but because I have no outlet for my stress, I've been having trouble sleeping lately. I've been managing to maintain my sanity by venting to the owner of a bar by myself after work on weekends. One day, I unusually worked overtime and missed the last train. I thought I'd kill time at a hotel until morning, but having worked all day without a break, I was so hungry I could barely stand. Since I live at home, I could enjoy my mom's warm meal if I went back, but missing the last train made that happiness distant. Dragging my tired and hungry body, I headed to a 24-hour diner near my office. This diner offers a rare late-night meal for just $5. When I walked in, there were almost no customers because it was so late. I sat at my usual table for 4 people and ordered the $5 meal. As I watched the staff head back to the kitchen after taking my order, I loosened my tie and took a deep breath. While waiting for my meal, it seemed like a customer came into the diner. I didn't bother to look back, but I could tell from the noise that someone sat at the table behind me. Suddenly, a familiar foul smell wafted from behind. Ack, that stinks. It's the smell of someone who hasn't bathed in days. The unpleasant stench made my blood run cold. Who on earth could be spreading such a smell? On my way to the restroom, I turned to see who it was, and there sat a beautiful woman, despite the foul smell. However, her appearance was dirty and ragged. Her long hair, which should have been black and shiny, was now messy and tangled. And there was something else strange about her. Despite her appearance, there was a certain elegance in the way she sat. While I found it odd, I headed to the restroom, did my business, and was on my way back to my seat, when I noticed she was having an argument with the staff. As I got closer, I could vaguely understand what she was saying. She was pleading with the staff in a weak voice. That's why the $5 meal is already sold out. But I heard you tell another customer just a moment ago that they could still order it. Because if you include the order that customer is about to make, it's all gone. Sorry, but that's the situation. If you don't want to order anything else, you can leave. It seemed the woman also wanted to order the $5 meal. But from this exchange, it looked like the waiter was lying to get rid of her quickly. Right after she entered, another customer came in, and I heard them say the $5 meal is still available. But if that customer hasn't ordered yet, it should be first come, first served. There are other items under $5, but they are all a la carte and won't satisfy hunger if she's really hungry. I had ordered the $5 meal. Sitting at the next table, it felt a bit awkward. She looked downcast and kept looking at the menu over and over, wondering what to do. Maybe she's really hungry but doesn't have much money. After a while, the staff brought my $5 meal. I turned around to see if she was still sitting there. Then I told the staff to give her my $5 meal. The staff seemed confused and blinked in surprise. I looked at her again and, with hand gestures, repeated my request. Finally, understanding. The staff looked slightly annoyed but quickly took the meal meant for me to her. The staff brought the $5 meal to her table suddenly. She looked surprised as she had been staring at the menu the whole time. "This is from that gentleman," the staff explained, pointing at me. When she looked at me, our eyes met, and her eyes sparkled beautifully, like she was looking at a savior. She thanked me. I waved her back slightly, feeling a bit embarrassed, and quickly hid my face behind the menu. After that, I ordered some a la carte dishes to fill my stomach and left there. As I walked, looking for a hotel near the office, I heard someone call out to me from behind. Near the entrance of the diner was the woman I had given the $5 meal to. "Thank you for earlier. I never expected you to pay as well." "No, don't worry about it. I was planning to eat here anyway." "Well, I was planning to order it myself," she said, extending a $5 bill that she had been holding tightly in both hands towards me. What an honest person she is. Even though she seems to be struggling with money, she still wants to give me $5. I decided to accept her kind gesture. "Wait, is that you, Katie?" I looked closely at her face again and realized she was Katie Thompson, a classmate from high school. Her father is the CEO of the Thompson Group, so she's the CEO's daughter. At the high school we attended, seniors could customize their curriculum based on their future plans. During that time, we shared a few classes. We only talked a few times in group activities, but I was surprised she remembered me. In fact, I had a crush on her back then, so just that made me happy. She was always an excellent student, calm, kind, and had an elegant aura. I don't know what's happened to her to be in this state now, but even though she looks worn out, she still has that grace. She was always approachable despite her elegance, attracting those around her. "Do you maybe not have anywhere to go?" Well, as I thought, my guess was right. Actually, I missed the last train and can't get home tonight, so I was gonna stay at a hotel. "If you want, you can stay with me." I accidentally booked a room for two, and since it's the day of, there's a cancellation fee. "You'd really be helping me out." "All right, thank you." We decided to head to the hotel together. On the way, I stopped by a convenience store's restroom and quickly booked a nearby hotel. When we arrived at the hotel, I immediately suggested her to take a bath. I realized later that I should have booked separate rooms. It wasn't because I had any impure intentions, but in my haste, this is what happened. I hung my jacket on the hanger, loosened my tie, and sat nervously on the edge of the chair. After a while, she came out of the bath with just a towel wrapped around her. I felt my heart race in this situation, being alone in a closed room with someone I used to have feelings for, now standing before me in such a state. I handed her the underwear and personal items I bought at the convenience store. I wanted to buy her clothes too, but it was late, and all the nearby stores were closed. So she wrapped herself in the bedsheets and sat in the chair across from me at the table. On the table was another convenience store bag filled with salads, sandwiches, and other foods. "It's been a while since we met, and you've helped me so much." "Thank you, Tom. It's okay. Since we finally got to meet again after so long, I thought it'd be nice to have a chance to talk. Besides, it wasn't enough with just that, was it? What would you like? I bought quite a variety, so take whatever you like." As she took out the food from the bag and placed it on the table, her eyes lit up, and at that moment, her stomach growled loudly. Blushing, she grabbed a sandwich and opened the wrapper. "Well, thanks for the food." She began eating the sandwich, and after that, she continued to eat one thing after another. Watching her eat so happily, I felt like I was watching a small animal, and it made me smile. Noticing that I was watching her, she looked away shyly when our eyes met. "So, it's been a while since we met, but I'm surprised you remembered me." "Of course. Especially those from the final year. I remember almost everyone." "Remembering everyone is impressive. I don't at all. I remember the people I talk to a lot, but there are people whose faces I recognize but can't remember their names. By the way, I heard you started working at your dad's place after high school." When I briefly summarized to keep it concise, she stopped eating. The sparkle in her eyes darkened. I worried that maybe it was too soon to ask. actually. But she slowly started talking about what happened after she graduated high school. After graduating high school, Katie, being the daughter of a company CEO, was planning to work for a subsidiary company. She was intending to gain experience as a working professional there. However, just before graduation, her father told her, now is not a good time, and advised her to go to college. He didn't explain what exactly wasn't right about the timing, but she decided to take the late entrance exams as he suggested. Although she was on the same job-focused curriculum as I was, she kept up with her studies through senior year and managed to get into her first-choice university. It was a campus life that started suddenly, but she seemed to be enjoying it well enough. However, it didn't last for even a year. In the fall of her first year, her father failed in his business, causing the Thompson Group to suffer a significant loss. It would have been better if it had stopped there, but he expanded his business further to recover. This led to even more losses, and as a result, they were left with a massive debt. They managed to sell off their assets and house, repaying most of the debt, but not all of it, and their lifestyle changed drastically from the luxurious one they had before. Katie and her family of 3 moved into a small studio apartment, and she dropped out of college. Around the same time, she lost contact with her high school friends. It was no surprise, as she had no previous work experience and started working part-time jobs day and night to support the family. A little later, her mother couldn't let go of their previous lifestyle and decided to divorce her father, leaving Katie behind and moving out of the apartment. Her father, too, worked tirelessly to repay the debt but overstrained himself, fell seriously ill, and after a long period of illness, passed away this spring. Then, after Katie found herself alone, she couldn't afford the rent on her apartment anymore and got evicted. Since then, her once neat and pretty nails and hair have become a mess. On top of that, she can only afford to take a bath at a public bathhouse once a week, so she smells, and because of that, she lost her part-time job. Even when she goes to interviews for other jobs, they refuse to hire her, saying she would bother the customers. And today, she was turned down for yet another part-time job. Unable to bear the unbearable hunger, she was drawn to a sign that advertised a $5 meal, and she went in without thinking. I see. I want to say it's been tough, but this is beyond tough. Yeah, but it can't be helped. Honestly, I can't see what the future holds, and it's really scary. Thinking about continuing this kind of life makes her wonder why she's even alive. This sandwich she started with talking hasn't been touched since. Though she's smiling a little, her expression looks pained. Looking closely, her fingernails, holding the sandwich, show clear lines indicating malnutrition, even in the dim light. She has no money and no place to sleep. In a situation where she can't even have proper meals, she's mentally cornered. After listening to her story until the end, I realized how harsh Katie's current situation is. Moreover, knowing that this situation wasn't caused by her but by her parents tightens my heart even more. Katie, it might be a bit nosy to say this right after seeing you again after such a long time, but would you like me to introduce you to a part-time job? I appreciate the thought, but I'm already causing enough trouble for you, Tom. I don't want to burden you anymore. I understand. You invited me out today and told a kind lie so I wouldn't feel like a burden, didn't you? I'd end up causing trouble at the job you introduced me to as well. Apparently, she had seen through everything. It's because of this keen perception that she can be so kind to others. But it's true that I missed the last train and needed a place to stay. Don't worry about it. The job is okay even if you have special circumstances. Really. Now I'm worried about what kind of job it is. Well, I can't be picky. No, it's not a dangerous job. My relative runs a bar. Since it's family, you won't need any formal procedures, and they'll be flexible. All right, then, would you mind? Sure, leave it to me. I stood up from my chair and puffed out my chest. Helping someone in need is the Tom family's policy. Katie chuckled at that. Seeing that smile for the first time since high school brought back some bittersweet memories. Besides, I want the woman I love to be happy. What did you say? Oh, nothing. Well, you've got to eat a lot and get your strength up for what's ahead. I quickly went to the bar run by my relatives and introduced Katie to my uncle, the manager. I kindly asked him to hire her. My uncle had just hurt his back and was having a hard time running the place alone, so he gladly accepted. Katie was allowed to use an unused storage room on the second floor of the bar as a place to stay. I was relieved to have secured a job and a minimum place to sleep for her. A few days later, when I asked my uncle how Katie was doing, he said that she was efficient and worked hard, making her very popular with the customers. Hearing that made me happy as if it were about me, and I felt a bit proud. But her own life was tough, and she was also dealing with the debt left by her father, so just the part-time job at the bar wouldn't be enough to pay it off. It seemed Katie decided to get another part-time job. She interviewed at several stores in the shopping street where the bar is located, and since all the store owners knew me or my uncle, the talks went smoothly, and she was accepted everywhere. When I asked each place why they reacted so unexpectedly, they said it was because she's cute. Well, she is cute, but deciding just based on looks. Among them, she got a daytime job at the butcher shop in the shopping street, securing another part-time job. Even after that, I was concerned about how she was doing, so I would go to the bar after my work and watch over her working hard as a customer. One day, after work, I stopped by the bar again. I had a bad day at work, so I let loose a bit more than usual and ended up drinking too much. To calm my dizzy head, I lay down on the counter, and when it was closing time, they let me rest on the second floor until I sobered up. "Tom, it's rare to see you drink so much," Katie said as she brought me a glass of water. "Thanks. Work was a bit tougher than usual today. I ended up drinking more than I intended, but tomorrow's my day off, so I was planning to let loose a little. Now that you mention it, I don't really know much about what you do for work. We always end up talking about me." "You're right. I hadn't really talked about it. Since we reconnected, you've been busy, and I just forgot." "Well then, tell me all about your job tonight." Now that you ask, it feels a bit awkward. Despite saying that, I started talking about my job. I ended up sharing everything, from the projects I'm leading to the challenges I'm facing, and my role within the company. I hadn't planned to go into so much detail, but Katie was such a good listener that I found myself talking freely. "It's been a while since I talked this much about myself. You still live with your parents, right? Do you ever vent to them?" "Not really. They're busy with their own work, and we don't always have time to talk when I get home. Plus, I don't want to worry them too much with my problems." "Sounds tough, Tom. Though maybe not as tough as my situation," Katie teased. I finished my water in one gulp and stood up. "Thanks for listening. I feel a lot better. I think I'll sleep well tonight." After talking with Katie, things at work started improving. There was an issue on the other side, and I played a key role in resolving it. This helped restore trust, and I felt like I redeemed myself and the company's reputation. The project continued smoothly, and the product was completed without any more issues. With work finally wrapping up, I left early in the evening and headed straight to the bar to share the good news with Katie. "Katie." I burst through the curtain of the pub and stepped inside. However, it seemed to be before opening time, as there was no one there. Thinking she might be upstairs, I went up, but no one was there either. Maybe she's still working at the butcher shop. I went back down to the first floor, and just then, my uncle walked in. He seemed surprised to see me there so early, and wondered why Katie wasn't there yet. Her shift at the butcher shop ended 2 hours ago, and she usually helps with the prep work here at this time. Hearing this, I felt uneasy. Just in case, I called the butcher shop, but Katie had already left. I had no direct way to contact her, so I started to worry. However, my uncle said she'll probably be here soon, and told me to help with the prep work. Yeah, maybe I'm overreacting. She might have gone shopping or something, I told myself, and helped as instructed. When it was time for the pub to open, she still hadn't shown up. That night, I worked in her place, waiting for her to return. But she never came back, and I missed the last train, so I decided to spend the night in the storage room on the second floor where she had been staying. The next day, I got up with a heavy body and went downstairs. I hadn't slept at all, worried about where she was. Feeling the fatigue from lack of sleep for the first time in a while, I decided to go home and then head to work. Although a major deal with Samsung had just been wrapped up, there were still ongoing discussions with another big company. This company had been in contact with us for a while, but negotiations hadn't been going well. It's not urgent, but we need to hammer out the details moving forward. Then, on my way to work, I got a call on my personal phone from the client. At first, I didn't think anything of it, but after the call ended, I realized something. How did they get my personal number? The call was about discussing a negotiation that hadn't been resolved yet, and they said they'd be visiting our office early in the morning. They said they'd arrive in a few minutes. With various questions in my mind, I quickened my pace to get to work. As soon as I arrived at the office, I hurried to the conference room where the client was waiting. When I entered the room, a man who clearly wasn't an ordinary employee was sitting with an assistant standing next to him. "Good morning. I'm sorry to keep you waiting. I'm Tom, and I'll be the project manager for this next project. Thank you for taking the time to come here despite your busy schedule." "No problem at all. I'm the CEO, John. Nice to meet you. Let's have a little chat." We spent about an hour discussing how to proceed with the project. I didn't think he was just an employee, but I never expected the CEO to come personally. I was incredibly nervous about the unexpected situation. "So, we'd like to proceed with this approach on our end from now on." Even though I was nervous, I had to clearly convey our requirements since it was work. I conveyed our needs concisely, with maximum politeness and minimum explanation. John listened and thought silently without raising an eyebrow. The heavy atmosphere filled the conference room. "Yay, that sounds good." I was relieved by his words. "I understand the approach you want to take. We'll go along with it. But there's one condition." The tense atmosphere grew even heavier with those words. I straightened up instinctively. What was he going to say? Even though he said it was fine, I wondered if our request was too much. Then, I heard the sound of the conference room door opening. "Oh, you're here again." Curious about who he was talking to, I turned around and saw Katie standing there. "Katie." I was so shocked, I couldn't say anything more. Then, John started to explain the situation. John in front of me was actually Katie's uncle on her father's side, and he had been looking for Katie's family, who had disappeared a few years ago, until today. Yesterday, one of the employees who knew the circumstances happened to spot Katie in the shopping district. They brought her to her uncle, John. Until this very moment, I had been worried about her whereabouts, and to be honest, I had even thought about the worst-case scenario where the mafia had found her and taken her away because of the debt. That's why it felt like a dream that Katie was right in front of me. This is real, right? Katie is really here. Katie chuckled at my words. "What are you talking about? I'm not a dream. Want to touch and see?" She extended her hand towards me. I reached out and touched it hesitantly, confirming that Katie in front of me was real and not an illusion. Tears welled up naturally. "Hey, come on, there's no need to cry. We were only apart for one day. What are you talking about? Even if it's just one day, I'd be worried if you suddenly disappeared without any reason. And we still hadn't paid off the debt, so I even thought the mafia might have taken you away. But thank God, thank God." Unable to stop my tears, I held her hand tightly and collapsed to my knees right there. After crying for a while, John cleared his throat. "Now, about the rest of the story." I snapped back to reality, remembering that I was in the middle of hearing his proposal. I wiped my tears and sat back in my seat, while Katie walked over to where he was and stood next to his assistant. "Tom, how about working for us?" I was so stunned by the unexpected offer that I couldn't find the words. What exactly do you mean?" "Katie told me about your situation at your current company. Despite being a high school graduate among many college graduates, you've achieved remarkable results as a manager. That's commendable. And I heard that you took the blame for a mistake your colleague made on another project, didn't you?" "Yes, that's right. As the manager, it's my responsibility to take the fall for any mistakes made by the team. It doesn't matter who made the mistake." "Indeed. I spoke directly with the CEO of your current company. He said the way you handled the situation was almost artistic. You fixed it beautifully and met the deadline. While that's what a manager is supposed to do, not many can do it as well as you." I didn't feel particularly happy to be praised for what I considered my duty. However, knowing that the CEO acknowledged my efforts made me feel proud. From my experience, academic background doesn't matter when it comes to capable employees in a company. Having certain standards is fine, but I don't like a corporate culture that emphasizes academic background. Moreover, I think it's a waste to keep someone like you in that company." He continued, "I believe that due to the harassment related to your academic background, you haven't been able to fully utilize your abilities. That will likely continue as long as you stay in that company. So, would you consider fully utilizing your talent with us?" Indeed, as he said, I felt constrained in my current company. Thinking about it, I should be proud of having climbed this far and being entrusted with managerial responsibilities in such an environment. His words made me feel that way, and being told that I had more potential made me feel excited. "All right, I'll accept your offer." After that, I started working on the next project as one of his subordinates. Although I held the same position as a manager, the working environment was much more comfortable compared to my previous company. The interpersonal relationships within the company were also good. Having met Katie in such a fateful encounter and having gone through tough times together, we now work as colleagues. She now assists me as a manager and is a great business partner. But lately, I've been feeling something a little different. With a bit of expectation, I continue to work hard today,